Welcome back to Raptor-One.
Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars. Chapter 8, The Ash Orchard. The orchard appeared first as a shadow on the scope. A planet the color of coal, scarred by craters and cut through with deep canyons. No seas glimmered on its surface, no greenery softened its jagged lines. But as Raptor-One descended through its thin atmosphere, shapes began to reveal themselves. Trees. Thousands of them. They rose from the blackened soil in endless groves, each trunk a column of obsidian glass. Branches twisted skyward like frozen smoke, their leaves made not of foliage but of shimmering ash that drifted constantly, falling and rising in perpetual cycles. When the wind blew, the leaves broke apart and reformed, whispering like voices just beyond hearing. The shard in Juno's hands pulsed slowly, in rhythm with the orchard itself. Kael sat stiff in his chair, staring out the viewport. You know what I see? A haunted forest designed by someone who hated children. Lyra didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the heart of the orchard, where the trees grew denser, their trunks interwoven into something like a cathedral. The shard's light pointed them there. Descent into the orchard. They landed on a clearing of black glass, the landing struts creaking as if protesting the ground. The moment they stepped outside, the air hit them like cold smoke, thin, metallic, every breath tinged with the faint taste of ash. The trees shifted faintly as they approached, their obsidian branches creaking, their leaves of ash reshaping into spirals and patterns. Lyra felt her chest tighten. The patterns were familiar, symbols she had seen in the derelict's library, in the visions of the silent sea. The orchard is alive, Juno whispered. It remembers. Kael's voice was low. Remembers what? Or who? The ground beneath their boots vibrated faintly, and for a moment Lyra thought she heard footsteps, echoes of people who had walked here long ago. They pressed onward, following the shard's glow into the heart of the orchard. The test of sacrifice. The cathedral of trees loomed before them, its branches wove into a dome overhead, obsidian limbs fused into an unbroken vault. Inside, the air was thick with drifting ash, swirling in slow spirals that moved with intent, like dancers tracing an ancient pattern. The shard pulsed once. The ash froze in place. Then it began to form images. Lyra gasped softly. She saw her own face in the ash, younger, eyes bright with wonder. Then Kael's, laughing, reckless, before the scars. Then Juno's, smiling, peaceful, unburdened. The images shattered. New ones formed, other lives. Lyra saw herself standing in an Alliance uniform, her crew gone, the shard surrendered. Kael, alone, drinking himself into oblivion. Juno, taken by the autumn, her mind hollowed. The ash whispered, voices curling through the chamber. Every promise has a cost. What will you give to keep ours? Lyra's throat tightened. What does it want? Juno's eyes glowed faintly. It's asking for sacrifice. Memory, time, pieces of ourselves. It won't let us carry its song for free. Kael swore under his breath. Always a catch. Always. Choices. The ash spiraled again, forming three paths. One shimmered with golden light, safe, easy, but ending abruptly. One glowed red, dangerous, filled with shadow, but leading onward. The last was black, empty, silent, vanishing into nothing. Juno swayed, her voice trembling. The golden path is surrender. The red path is endurance. The black path is oblivion. Lyra's fist clenched. Then we choose red. But the orchard whispered again. A path cannot be walked without payment. One of you must yield what you hold most dear. The ash swirled, forming images. Kael's rifle, Juno's shardborn connection, Lyra's command. Kael's eyes went wide. No, not my rifle. You can take my flask, my boots, hell, even my dignity, but not that. Juno's hand trembled over the shard. If I give this up, it severs me from the songs, from the architects. Lyra swallowed hard. Her chest burned at the thought of losing the one thing that defined her. Without command, without the responsibility of the helm, she was nothing but a drifter. The shard pulsed harder, urgent. The orchard waited. Decision. Lyra stepped forward. Take it from me. Kael spun. Are you insane? Lyra's voice cracked, but held. I'm the captain. If command is my sacrifice, then so be it. What matters is that you carry the promise forward. Juno's eyes filled with tears. Lyra. The ash surged, wrapping around her. For a moment it felt like drowning, her memories flickering away, every decision, every instinct of leadership stripped from her. She gasped, staggering, feeling hollow. Then the shard pulsed again, and the ash released her. The red path glowed brighter. Kael caught her as she stumbled. Captain? Lyra's voice was faint, trembling. Don't call me that. Not anymore. The orchard's gift. The cathedral of trees shifted, their branches opening to reveal a beam of crimson light stabbing into the sky. Within it hovered another shard, larger than before, etched with deeper fractures. Juno took it reverently, her hands glowing with its pulse. The orchard has given us its song. But Lyra stood apart, her breath shallow. She felt adrift, command stripped from her like an arm torn away. Kael gripped her shoulder, firm. You may not feel like captain anymore, but you're still ours. Title or no title, you're the one who leads us. Lyra didn't answer. She only stared at the ash swirling above, whispering like the voices of the dead. And in her heart, she wondered, if she could no longer command, how could she ever lead them to the end of this path? The ground shuddered. From above the cathedral of obsidian trees came the sound of tearing sky. Lyra didn't need to look to know what it meant. The autumn had arrived. Kael cursed and snapped his rifle into position. They just don't quit. It's like we're dragging them across the whole damn galaxy. Juno clutched the new shard to her chest. They're not following us. They're following this. The orchard's song is too loud to hide. The trees moaned, obsidian limbs vibrating under the weight of an alien frequency. Already, the ash leaves drifted faster, disintegrating and reforming as though the orchard itself was shuddering with fear. Lyra's hand went to her pistol. Her instinct screamed at her to shout orders, to anchor her crew with her voice. But when she opened her mouth, nothing came. The hollow left by the orchard's sacrifice yawned inside her, empty and cold. For the first time in her life, she had no words to command with. The first wave. Red light speared down through the branches, slicing trunks into molten shards. Autumn constructs descended in columns of fire, their angular forms unfolding as they landed. Hunters with blade limbs, striders tall as the trees. A hovering overseer, its red eye sweeping the grove like a lantern searching for prey. Kael opened fire, bolts sparking against obsidian. We hold them here, yeah? Lyra froze. Her voice caught. She couldn't bring herself to answer. Juno stepped forward instead, raising the shard high. Yes, here. The shard pulsed, sinking with the orchard. A wave of ash surged outward, swirling into a storm that slowed the autumn advance, clogging their sensors with 1,000 false images. Kael glanced at her, surprise flickering across his face. Didn't know you had captain in you. Juno's eyes glowed faintly. I don't, but someone has to lead until she can. Lyra felt her chest tighten. Shame burned hotter than the autumn's fire. The orchard's defense. The trees answered Juno's call. Their obsidian limbs cracked and split, launching shards of glass that spun through the air like spears. Dozens of autumn hunters were impaled, collapsing into sparking ruin. The striders fired beams that tore the trees apart, but each one that fell rose again in ash, reforming with stubborn defiance. The overseer bellowed, its voice a grinding of iron. Interference detected. Initiate erasure. It unleashed a beam of red light that seared through the grove, cutting a swath of destruction. The ash screamed, swirling frantically around the wound. Juno staggered, clutching the shard tighter. It's hurting them. It's hurting the orchard. Kael ducked behind a trunk, firing burst after burst. Then we heard it back. Lyra raised her pistol and fired, but her hands shook, her shots going wide. Her mind swirled with doubt. She couldn't think like a captain anymore. Couldn't see the battlefield as a whole, couldn't anticipate the flow. Her sacrifice had carved it out of her. She was just one gun now. Kael's command. Lyra. Kael barked. His voice cut sharp as a blade. Left flank. You've got 3 hunters crawling low. She spun instinctively, dropping 2 with clean shots, kicking the third back into a tree where it shattered under falling obsidian. Kael grinned grimly. See? You don't need command. You just need aim. Lyra's breath caught. He was right. She couldn't lead anymore, but she could still fight. And Kael was giving the orders now. Juno, more ash stormed to the right. Drive them into the choke. The shard blazed, and the storm abated. Lyra, cover the overseer's drones. Her pistol barked, and 3 fell in a spray of sparks. For the first time, the crew fought not as a unit under one captain, but as equals. Kael calling the flow, Juno bending the orchard, Lyra striking where they needed her most. Turning the tide. The overseer roared, its beam charging for another strike. Juno raised the shard, but her strength faltered, her knees buckling as the light inside her flickered. Kael saw it. Lyra. Together. They sprinted side by side, firing at the overseer's flank. Their combined shots staggered it, breaking its aim long enough for Juno to unleash one last surge. The shard's light lanced upward, piercing the overseer's core. It shrieked, its frame cracking apart, molten light spilling from its seams. With a final, grinding cry, it collapsed into ash, dissolving into the orchard's soil. The surviving autumn faltered. The orchard seized the moment, its trees surging as one, impaling and smothering the stragglers until only silence remained. Aftermath. Ash drifted down in soft spirals. The orchard's song quieted, its voice dim but alive. Juno collapsed to her knees, the shard dimming in her hands. Kael dropped beside her, panting, sweat streaking his brow. Lyra stood apart, chest heaving, pistol still in her hand. She felt hollow, stripped bare. But she had seen something she hadn't expected. Kael stepping up, Juno commanding the song. The three of them surviving without her being captain. Maybe that was the lesson. The promise wasn't hers to carry alone. She holstered her pistol, helping Juno to her feet. "We did it," she said softly. Juno looked at her, her eyes shimmering with the shard's fading light. "No," she whispered. "The orchard did. We just carried it through the fire." Kael gave a weary grin. "And now it's time we carried ourselves the hell out of here." Lyra nodded. She couldn't command, but she could agree. And for now, that was enough. Ash fell like slow snow. The grove had quieted to a breath. Where the overseer had burned a trench through the cathedral of trees, new limbs were already weaving together, glass knitting over glass, as if the orchard refused to. Remember the shape of the wound. Juno stood where the beam had died, both palms cupped around the new shard. Its glow had settled into a deep ember, steady and sure. Kael paced a tight circle, rifle slung but not forgotten, every few steps glancing up through the vault of obsidian boughs, as if expecting the sky to tear open again. "We won," he said, not quite believing it. Or, well, they did and we were useful, which is a win I'll take. Lyra didn't answer. She had holstered her pistol and taken 2 steps back from everyone and everything, as if distance could make sense of the space the orchard had cut out of her. The hollow still rang. No command voice rose in her chest when she reached for it. Only quiet and the ache where it had been. Ash eddied. The trees creaked with something more deliberate than wind. Juno turned slowly. "It isn't finished," she whispered. Across the floor, the fallen ash gathered itself, rising in spirals that met and braided. In the air, a shape formed. First smoke, then definition. A polyhedron the size of Lyra's head, facets of dark glass veined with dim ember light. It hovered at the center of the grove, humming at the edge of hearing. The new shard in Juno's hands answered, and the hum became a chord. Kael stopped pacing. "Tell me that's a congratulations cake." Juno didn't smile. "It's heavier than the others." Her fingers tightened. "It doesn't want one of us. It wants all of us." The ash thing pulsed. A memory too heavy for one mind. The words weren't words. They were certainty folding itself into understanding. Shared or shattered. Lyra drew a breath and felt the air carry the scent of glass dust and cold. "What does it ask?" Juno raised her face. The light at the corners of her eyes made her look lit from inside. A binding, triad resonance, anchor, conduit, tuner, again. But this time it won't take from a chamber. It will take from us. Kael cocked his head. "Define take. Preferably in a way that ends with all of us living." "Not life," Juno said softly. "Weight. It will distribute the weight. But it wants truth as the medium." She swallowed. "We each have to give the thing we hide from ourselves. Otherwise the cord won't hold." The ash thing rotated once, facets whispering. Lyra could almost hear meanings brush one another. Not command, but concord. Not hierarchy, but harmony. Kael blew out a half-laugh, half-groan. "Great. Group therapy with a haunted forest." Lyra stepped forward. The decision cost her less than she expected. Maybe that was what sacrifice did. Once a piece was gone, you learned which other pieces could move. "I'll go first." She took off her right glove and laid her bare palm on the hovering shape. It was cool, then warm, then neither. Sensation turned to memory in the instant of contact. The orchard found the tightly folded thing inside her she had avoided opening for years and opened it without malice. A corridor, red strobes, smoke, a breathless comms officer shouting coordinates through tears. 2 distress calls, "Captain, We can't reach both. Lyra at a fork of choices, none of which were clean, watching both outcomes already burning in her mind. A friend's ship if she turned left, 73 colonists if she turned right. She had gone right. She had lived. So had 73 colonists. Her friend had not. The Alliance had signed off, called it doctrine. Lyra had written the report and learned to speak in the plural voice of command to bury the singular voice that broke. And every order since had rattled against that hidden bone. The ash thing took the memory, not away, out. It set it gently in the light that pulsed between them, and the orchard took a degree of the weight. Lyra staggered, not from loss but from the sudden absence of secrecy. Cold air filled new room in her ribs. Sheer relief shocked her knees, and shame stung that relief. And then something else, space. Space where command had been. Space where something different could live. Juno reached to steady her. Lyra shook her head once. Fine. She set her jaw and stepped back. Kael was already shaking his head. Nope. No thanks. I like my ghosts right where I left them, in the locked cellar with the good whiskey. Juno turned the ash thing toward him, her voice gentle. We can't carry this alone. He stared up into the lacework canopy, jaw working. It doesn't change anything, he muttered to the leaves, as if they were the ones asking. Knowing, saying it out loud doesn't. The orchard waited without impatience. That, more than any argument, wore him down. Kael rolled his bandaged hand into a fist, stepped forward, and slammed it. Not hard, but like ripping off a dressing, against the hovering facet. Heat and metal, a smell like wet iron. The sensation of small, sticky fingers letting go of his as a pressure door shut because someone had taught him rules and he had obeyed them even when crying. Not a battlefield. A mining barge, old and mean, Otmo alarms howling, 9 people and a manual that said seal the breach. He had sealed it. The 10-year-old who had been holding his little sister's hand had done it because the adults shouted and he was good at following orders. Later, an official told him he'd saved the other 9. An aunt told him at the funeral he'd done the right thing. Years taught him he could make jokes so nobody would see the shape of his obedience. The ash thing received it with the same tenderness it had shown Lyra's memory. The weight moved. Kael sagged backward, eyes bright and angry. Don't. He cut himself off, breath hitching, and then laughed once, short and savage. Fine. Put it in the ledger. I'm not carrying it alone anymore. There. Juno was last. She didn't hesitate. She feared delay more than truth. She pressed both hands to the glass. The orchard slid soft fingers through the file system of her mind and found the folder marked private in handwriting younger than her present. A hospital hallway that smelled like disinfectant and worry. A doctor with tired eyes saying auditory processing anomaly, and a parent with worry sharpened into fear saying fix it, and a girl who could hear the hum of streetlights and the low song of power lines realizing she could make her life smaller and quieter so the people she loved wouldn't have to learn a new language. She learned silence as fluency. Later, when the stars started singing, nobody believed her until a stranger on a cheap freighter listened without asking her to stop. She built her life on that listening and never told anyone how much it hurt when it was loud. The ash thing drew the ache out of her hands until it trembled between the 3 of them, a weight set on 3 evenly spaced stones. The cord cinched. Ash lifted in a sudden, gentle wind and wrapped their wrists. It left behind bands of soot glass that cooled to something like dark quartz, 3 thin circlets, vein-lit with ember. They warmed in unison. The new shard in Juno's hands brightened, then split a filament of itself into each band, a whisper of resonance that made Lyra's skin prickle. Concordant, the orchard said, no sound, only meaning. Not command, but concord. Juno drew a shaky breath. It's done. What did we just buy? Kael asked, flexing his fingers. The band moved with him like a thought made solid. Juno listened with her whole body. A link. I can hear you both, a little. Not words, not thoughts, just shape. If one of us pulls too much weight, the others feel it and can shoulder more. The shard's memory flows across all three. If they try to jam one of us, the song will route through the others. She closed her eyes, and the smallest smile ghosted her mouth. And if one of us lies to ourselves, the other two will feel the discord. Kael groaned. Oh good. Built-in conscience. Lyra rubbed her thumb across the band. It thrummed once under her touch and settled. Cost? Juno opened her eyes. If one of us falls, the weight of what we carry snaps onto the others like a dropped rope. It will hurt. It could break us. The orchard assumes we accept that risk. Kael stared at his band as if weighing it against an invisible scale. We always did, he said finally, quiet. The ash thing dimmed, then shivered once more in what felt like approval. Above, the branches untwined to reveal a slice of sky the color of burnt steel. The orchard's final message folded around them like a cloak. The last post waits where orbits not, Kestrel Halo. Concord will open what command cannot. Lyra flinched at the last phrase. Then she let herself breathe through it. We have our path. A tremor went through the grove that had nothing to do with trees. Juno's head jerked up. Alliance, she whispered. High atmosphere. They've triangulated the fight. Kael was already moving. Time to ghost, Concord or not. They ran for Raptor-One, ash whispering under their boots. The grove watched them go, its branches knitting closed behind them as if tucking away the memory of their footprints. At the ramp, Lyra paused and looked back. The cathedral stood as it had when they arrived, ruined, rebuilding, unbowed. She felt the new band warm against her skin in time with two other pulses. Kael's brash steadiness, Juno's fierce, fragile focus. For the first time since the orchard had taken command out of her, the hollow didn't feel like absence. It felt like room. On the bridge, everything returned to the comfort of habit. Straps in, panels alive, engines spooling. Kael took the co-pilot's chair and didn't wait for an order that wouldn't come. Course fed, he said. Kestrel Halo is a tangle of orbital junk around a blue dwarf. The maps hate it. We're going to thread needles until the needles cry. Juno set the shards in their cradles. The ember bands on their wrists warmed in the same instant. The NAV hollow filled with a thin line not of light, but of timing. Concord channel is open, she said. If they jam us, we'll braid around it. Lyra rested her hands on the stick, felt the ship's familiar skin under her palms, and didn't reach for the absent voice. She reached instead for the line Juno showed, and the pressure of Kael's attention at her shoulder, and the orchard's last word humming in her bones. Let's go, she said simply. They lifted through air that tasted of ash and glass. On the scope, Alliance signatures bloomed at the edge of the sky, neat wedges tightening, orders likely already queued. Kael flicked on 3 lies and a truth across their transponder. Juno bled their heat into a cold pocket. Lyra flew the seam between 2 search cones because she could feel, in the faint warmth on her wrist, the exact heartbeat when Kael would say now and Juno would breathe here. They slid through the gap without a ripple. The ash orchard fell away under them, its song thinning to a thread and then to memory. The band on Lyra's wrist cooled to a steady, companionable weight. Ahead, the chart that wasn't a chart sketched an impossible route toward a place called Kestrel Halo, where orbits made a knot and, if the orchard could be believed, command would be worse than useless. Lyra smiled, small and crooked, at the idea of a door that opened only to a cord. Concord, she murmured. Juno glanced over. eyes bright despite the exhaustion. What? Nothing, Lyra said, and the band on her wrist warmed fractionally with the amused echo of Kael's skepticism. Everything. Raptor-One nosed into the dark, 3 pulses in time, and the promise they carried. Heavy, shared, held.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to be notified about upcoming releases to the Raptor-One series, please subscribe. This has been a Bad Karma Drone production.